So the gold bricks represent the gold standard. The city of Emerald represents the money at the end of the path, and the Oz represents the DC-like politicians that are creating a facade of potential success. This guy in the early 1900s wrote the original book that would become the 1939 adaptation of the movie. In that movie, we follow somebody who's thrust into a whole new world that they are not familiar with, only to told to follow the gold to get to the green. And when they get there, they find that the person working behind the scenes has been orchestrating all of this. Who had they deceived? Well, they deceived the Scarecrow, who represented the farmers of the time, who were too dumb to realize they were being industrialized in the farming industry. He didn't have a brain. A lion, the great leader of the jungle, even though they're in the Sahara, to only find out he didn't have the courage to lead them down the path that he thought was right. Representing the weak leaders at the time who were unwilling to face courageously the monetary policy that was being put in place by central banks. And exchanging the American citizen's heart and soul for money was really the core of the industrial boom that happened in the early 1900s. And that has nothing to do with the fact that a metal man had no heart, right? Another fun fact, the ruby slippers. The rubies actually weren't rubies in the original book, it was silver. In the late 1800s, there was a lot of debate going on as to whether or not we need to incorporate silver into our standard as well so that we can upkeep with trade and upkeep with population. It connects to another conspiracy theory, so check this out. So Frank Baum was writing at a time before the Federal Reserve was in place. What's the Federal Reserve? All you need to know is it's not federal and they don't have reserves. We'll talk about that another time. But it was about to be formed. Who was it being formed by? 7 people having a secret meeting that they came out of saying, hey, we had the secret meeting and now we as bankers believe that we should control all the money because we're the smartest with the money. And the American people were like, should we trust them? And a lot of people like L. Frank were like, we shouldn't trust them. So books and stories and even political pundits would step up against the Federal Reserve, but to no avail. Like John Jacob Astor, who would step up against the Federal Reserve. Benjamin Guggenheim, who would actually be vocal in stating that he believed that we were selling our souls to gold. Isidor Straus. Now, all 3 of these gentlemen have something in common. They all died in April, and they all died in the Atlantic Ocean a year before the Federal Reserve would officially be founded. They're telling me that 3 very wealthy individual political pundits who were against the centralization of our money all died in the same year, in the same month, on the same day, and died in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? What the heck happened to April 12th, 1912? The Titanic. You know what gold is measured in? Ounces. You know what the shortened version of ounces is? OZ.